Hey bitches, this is the scariest cults ever by Shane Dawson. So let's get to it. I'm kind of freaked out to watch this video because I don't fuck with Illuminati shit, fucking cult shit. So let's get to it.
Hey, what's up you guys? Yes, today we're going to be doing another creepy video, and this one is about the world's scariest cults.
Oh shit.
So I've been obsessed with cults for pretty much my whole life, and we've talked about them a lot before. I mean, we talked about Heaven's Gate, which was a cult where they all killed themselves because they thought that would get them to another planet. I even did a video where I was eating food that you would eat if you were in a cult. Well, today we're going to be talking about 3 of the scariest, most deadly cults of all time. And these stories are very, very fucked up, so I'm warning you, it's going to get really graphic and really intense. And I'm going to go really in detail on these 3 stories because they're so crazy, so get ready. First, we're going to be talking about what happened to the Madame Morris cult in 1989. Now, this event was so fucked up and so shocking that the whole world was talking about it. Even Oprah did a whole episode dedicated to it.
My guest today came face to face with the most hideous acts a human being can commit, when a drug smuggler's worship of evil led to the human sacrificial slaying of Texas student Mark Kilroy and 12 other victims.
Okay, so here's what happened. In 1989, a 21-year-old student named Mark Kilroy went missing while on spring break. Him and his friends went to a place in Mexico called Matamoros. Now, this was a really popular spring break destination. I think over 15,000 people go there at once. One night, him and his friends were hanging out at a bar called Garcia's. He left his friends for just a minute to go pee behind the bar, and that's where he disappeared. Now, his friends were so freaked out when they couldn't find him that they got American and Mexican police involved. Now, this became a huge deal. The media was talking about it. It was on the news. Everybody's wondering where Mark went. And his family and friends were hoping that maybe he would just pop up somewhere and have like a funny story about like, oh, I got lost and I was in Mexico, didn't know where I was, but here I am. And unfortunately, that did not happen. Now, as they were looking for Mark, a psychic came out in an interview and said that they had a vision of seeing Mark next to a big cauldron. Now, if you don't know what a cauldron is, that is a huge pot that witches use to like brew their spells. Now, just a few days later, the police were tracking a drug dealer, and they were following him to this ranch. Now, they thought when they got to the ranch, they were going to arrest him and find all the drugs and find the drug dealers and, you know, just arrest everybody. Now, what they found was much worse than that, and fucking terrifying. Now, on the ranch, yes, they found drugs, but behind the ranch, in a shed, they found something much darker. When they walked into the shed, they saw melted ritualistic candles, dried garlic strings, a machete that was splattered in blood, and the scariest of all, 4 massive cauldrons that were filled with blood and human body parts. Yeah, the family that owned the ranch was doing drug deals in the front and was practicing black magic in the back. Now, the black magic they were practicing is called Palo Mayombe, and that involved human sacrifices, which ironically they were doing because they didn't want the cops to find their drugs. They thought if they killed and consumed people like they were food, that the magic would work and the cops would never find them. Now, in the cauldrons and outside the ranch, they found the bodies of 15 people, including Mark. Now, practicing the magic on this ranch was a cult, and the leader's name was Adolfo de Jesus Costanzo, and he went by the nickname The Godfather. Now, the police didn't just find bodies in the cauldrons, they found bodies mutilated all over the ranch. And they said it looked like the bodies had been worn, like they gutted them and put them on like clothes. The cult members drank their blood, ate their organs, and all of this was done because Adolfo said that if they did it, it would give them supernatural powers. And one of the supernatural powers was being invisible to the police so they could get away with all of their drug deals. So here's another look at the ranch.
This is a look at the killing field where Mark Kilroy and the others died, on a small ranch outside of Matamoros. Mark and the 12 other victims had fallen prey to the demonic tactics of this man, Adolfo de Jesus Constanza.
Now, after all of that was found and all the evidence was taken in, the ranch was burned down to the ground. They were hoping that it would burn down and that would give the community peace. Now, the leader, Adolfo, fled to Mexico City with one of his followers, and the cops found him in an apartment building dead. Him and his follower both killed themselves. Now, when the other cult members were found and questioned by the police, they admitted to everything, and they had no remorse. force. One of them even said while they were on trial, "Go ahead and shoot me, your bullets will just bounce off." They thought that they were still invincible because they had eaten people. Well, all 14 members of the cult were convicted and they are serving life sentences in prison. Okay, so this next cult we're going to talk about was in Uganda, and it's called the Ten Commandments cult.
That's just fucking crazy.
So this was a religion that was started in Uganda. It was started by ex-priests, ex-nuns, and one former prostitute. The leader of this cult was a man named Joseph Kabateri. Now, for Uganda standards, Joseph was pretty wealthy and he built a place for his religion. And he would pay for radio broadcasts to play his message to get more people to come to his compound. Now, what his religion stated was that he had a vision that the world was going to end on December 31st of 1999. Now, if you wanted to be a member of this religion and this cult, this is what you had to do. You had to give them any land that you owned, and you had to give them all the resources you had. If you did that, you would get faith
Fucking
healing,
fraud.
2 meals a day, security, and a promise of eternal glory in heaven when the world ended on December 31st. Now, people were so scared of the world ending, and seeing this man who had money, who could build this compound was so exciting to them that they believed it. And all of them were really poor, so the fact that they could get 2 meals a day just for joining a religion, they were all in. Now, some other things that they had to give up were sex and even speech. And if you had sex or spoke, you were punished. You could be separated from your families, or you could be beaten. So things were going along. You know, he had all of his followers doing manual labor, doing things for him. He was kind of
talk.
And then December 31st, 1999 happened, and the world did not end. So obviously a lot of people were pissed and confused, and they were questioning whether or not this religion was real, whether or not he actually had a vision, and maybe he was lying. Well, he changed his story and he said, actually no, the world is not ending today, but on March 17th of 2000, Virgin Mary's gonna come back and she's gonna start the apocalypse. Now, a lot of them believed him, so they stayed, but what they didn't know was that date was actually the date that him and the rest of his founders were planning on killing all of the followers. Now, from December 1st to March 17th, when Virgin Mary was going to come back, he started selling some of his property off. He started getting ready to peace out. But the members had no idea what was going on. But if you were a member and you did question what was going on, he would send you to death. Well, then March 17th happened, and it was awful. He asked members of the cult to congregate in different areas of the church, and then he would sprinkle them all with gasoline and tell them it was holy water. Then he would lock the door to the building, and they would light it on fire. The entire building burned down, and all of the members died with it. When the authorities came, they found 778 bodies, and most of them were charred beyond recognition. Now, the weirdest part, Joseph killed himself with them. He wanted to die with his members, which is confusing because he knew that it was all a scam, but he wanted to go out with them. But some of the other founders of the religion are still out there, and nobody has seen them since. Okay, so this last story is very insane and very complicated, so stay with me. But it is a mindfuck. This is the cult of a man named David Koresh. So this story starts with a young man named Vernon Howell. He belonged to a church called the Seventh-day Adventist. So he had a really tough childhood. He was bullied and beaten, so he gave himself entirely to this church. The church owned a compound in Texas called Mount Carmel. So he entered Mount Carmel in 1981, and he met one of the prophets who was one of the highest ranking members of the church. Her name was Lois Roden, and he and her fell in love. Now, she was 70 years old, and he was very young, but he said that God made him feel like this was okay. Now, Lois had a son named George, and he was not falling for it. He was pissed because he was next in line to take over the church, and he thought that Vernon was coming in, fall in love with his mom, and then trying to take over when she died. Now, George was even more scared because the rest of the church loved Vernon. They were falling in love with him, which made it seem like he could really take over. Now, over some time, Lois, Vernon, and George started to fight. They all wanted power of the church. They all wanted to be in control. Well, instead of staying and fighting, Vernon decided to leave. Now, when he left, he decided to get his own followers and start his own religion. And his religion was much darker, much more radical, and much more focused on an apocalyptic future. Now, he claimed to be a Messiah and that he had seen a vision of the future, so he changed his name to his biblical name. and that was David Koresh. Then he started illegally practicing polygamy and started taking all of his followers and turning them into his wives. Now in 1988, Lois died, and David showed up to the church with all of his wives, his followers. And his plan was to bring his followers and take over the church and bring all of his views to it. Now, of course, George, the son of Lois, is still there, and he's like, nah man, fuck you, this is my church. So then they get into a war, and this is where things get really fucked up. George decided to challenge David in a very bizarre way. He wanted to have a challenge in front of both of their followers and see which one of them could resurrect a corpse. That's right, if you could bring a dead body to life, then you could be the new leader of the church. Well, David leaves because he does not want to be a part of this, but he gets an idea. He decides that he's going to contact the cops and tell them that George is doing illegal things with corpses. That way George can get arrested and he can take over the church. Well, the cops told David that he needed proof because they didn't believe him. Well, David and his followers decided to go to Kmart, buy a bunch of guns, and go back to George's chapel, put the gun to him and say, take a picture with that corpse so we can give it to the cops. Well, when David and his followers got back to the chapel, George knew what was going to happen, so he had a gun of his own. And then they all got into a huge gunfight. Now, nobody died, but there was a bunch of injuries. Now, David and his followers were found not guilty by the cops for some reason, and this made George go fucking crazy, so he just left the church. Left. Then George started spiraling into insanity. It was all just too much for his brain to handle. 2 years later, he killed his roommate with an axe because he was convinced that David sent the guy to kill him. He's like, my roommate's gonna kill me. David set this up. So he killed him in the middle of the night with a fucking axe. Well, after that, he was sent to a mental institution and he died a few years later. So you're probably wondering what happened to David. Well, since George left, he decided to take over the church. The first thing he does when he takes over the church is gets rid of all marriages. So now all the women in the church are his wives. Now, some of the members were so freaked out and pissed that they left and they went to the cops. But most of the members trusted him because he said that he was having visions from God and that God told him, hey, no, I'm supposed to have all these wives. This is what's supposed to happen. He also wanted them to have a lot of weapons. So David started hoarding guns and explosives, kind of turned the whole place into what looked like a military operation. But they all went along with it because it's what God said should happen, supposedly. Then a couple other members left because they were like, this is all getting too fucking weird. They notified the ATF. The ATF is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. So now the FBI gets involved and they want everybody to come out of the building because they assume that all these church members are just hostages. But the church members are like, no, we want to be here. We're doing God's work. So this turned into 4 weeks of the FBI trying to get them to come out. Damn. And they wouldn't. Well, finally the FBI got fed up, so they wanted to raid the
4
building.
weeks,
and
bitch.
as they were raiding the building, something happened and it caught on fire.
Oh.
Now, some theories are that the church members lit it on fire themselves because they wanted to create a wall of fire between them and the FBI. Well, that plan did not work. The fire erupted and it killed 75 members of the church, including 25 children. And in the middle of the fire, David shot himself in the head so that he wouldn't be burned alive. That one is like fucking crazy. I can't believe that happened in the 80s. Like the fact that that happened not that long ago is crazy to me. And cults are still around today, and stuff like this does still happen. We just don't really hear that much about it. So take this as a cautionary tale. If you are ever asked to be a part of something that seems shady, or you are ever taken into a church that seems like there's something weird going on, trust your gut, because you never know, it might be a cult. Well, there you guys go. Hopefully you enjoyed this creepy video. If you want more videos about cults or other scary stuff like that, give me a thumbs up so I know. Also, make sure to subscribe to my channel right down below and hit the notification button, because I make new videos every day. And if you want to see all my other scary videos, I'll put a link to a playlist right at the top of the description below. Alright, you guys, I will see you tomorrow. Watch your back.
Welcome to the world of Jurassic Park. Oh my god!
If you guys like this video, thumbs it up. This is fucking creepy. This cult shit. That's fucking ridiculous. It's crazy. I have no words. But if you like this video, thumbs it up. Don't forget to subscribe to all my channels. I have no idea what the fuck is going on outside. Loud ass shit. But, anyways. See you guys next time. Peace. Don't forget to subscribe on my channels. I'll see you guys next time.